not doing great.
You are sounding like you're not doing great.
I should be coming in excited. I should be coming in as cock of the proverbial walk because I've got a new writing gig and I'm excited about it. I'm working on a queer platformer adventure game called Quantum Witch. It's on Steam. There's a demo. It's very cute and fun. And Paul Rose, Mr. Biffo, is also on the writing team of Digitizer, the YouTube channel, and the old teletext video game thing. Big fan of Paul Rose. But I'm too sick to crow about it. If I crowed now, my sore throat would hurt more. So there will be no crowing, 3 times or otherwise, from me. And I bought this Rooster Tail butt plug for nothing. So, and then on top of that, something I've held true for my entire life, for 40 years on this earth, which does imply I thought about it as a baby.
Well, yeah.
I have always laboured under the belief that once you're done being sick, because your immune system has had to be on top form, your chances of being sick again afterwards are minimal. And both yourselves, Conrad and Laura, have told me that apparently I've just been lucky in the past because, listeners, I had an ear infection last week. So I have been walking around like cock of the walk. But on Saturday, I must have picked something up at PCW in Blackpool because my tag team partner, Priscilla, she fell ill the day before I did. Well, that was when the symptoms were at their worst. Well, that's when she messaged me complaining about it. And then I messaged her complaining about it the next day. Now, the saving grace is she at least says that it was a couple days. Now she's fine. We will see. Because I thought, you know what? At best, it will take a day. Because my immune system is on top form.
No, you're experiencing the opposite. This is, I'm going to talk about this the way that I would if I was explaining an immune system to a child.
Yeah, that's
your white blood cells and your antibodies are like little soldiers.
Oh God, are you explaining this like the How Your Body Works cartoon?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, good.
Just because your soldiers were ready for a fight, they've just done a fight, but they're all very tired out because they had to fight a big battle, and now there's another army coming from the other side.
Yeah, they were fighting that germ. He had like a spirally body like Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park, but he had the face of a goblin.
Yeah, now they're having to fight another army of gross-looking germs, but they're all tired out from the last one.
Mate. And I should have known, because I did used to watch How Your Body Works as a kid.
Right, you've seen the cartoons, you know how this works.
The red blood cells with the big ant bums on the back carrying bubbles. Yep. As a kid, I never knew what the fuck that was about. And that was the problem, I never paid attention. And if I'd have absorbed the information, I'd have remembered there is a second germ character, because there was the one with the Mr. DNA body and the goblin face, and then there was another one, and I can't remember what that one looks like.
I genuinely feel like there would be value in every decade or so, all of us having to go back and watch things we were taught as children just once through. Just to be like, hey, you've got vaguely more comprehension skills now. We showed you this when you were a kid. Did you take it in?
Right. How Your Body Works. I might rewatch that. Here's the problem. Now, for those who don't know, because I don't know how widespread it is, I don't know if... Conrad, do you know How Your Body Works?
I have heard of it, but I can't recall that I've actually seen it.
Right. So, for those who don't know, for all the Zoomers that listen to us, because we're very popular with the children, Riz, am I right? How Your Body Works was this cartoon in, I want to say, the 80s, could have been the 90s. Apparently there was a book called it that was published in 1949, so who knows. But it was this cartoon that was supposed to educate you, literally, about how your body works. And it was done in the style of All the Things in You, a bit like Numbskulls from the Beano. Anthropomorphized versions, so there were these characters that were red blood cells, and a few of them were individuals, but most of them were just this sort of faceless, like, army of them. And they had the white blood cells who would, like, fight. They were the immune system, if I remember correctly, and they would be like a task force of soldiers, and they'd fight the illness, which was anthropomorphized as a single character, but there was loads of him. And I don't know if they were meant to be individuals or like a hive. But this is why I didn't learn how my body works. Because I was going into the meta.
It's like one germ gets in and then it replicates. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
only one germ has to get in before it can just like clone itself a bunch of times.
But I didn't pay attention to any of that because I was thinking about how the characters work rather than how the body works. And of course, I was laughing at things like there was an episode that was about digestion and hydration and stuff. And it ended with the exterior character, the guy whose body is working, pissing up against a tree. Now, I don't remember anything educational from that show other than the white blood cells fighting germs. I remember with clarity, down to the texture of the tree, the boy pissing up against the tree, because that made me laugh. Also, there was a sexy one in it, and I remember that, and a baby being born, and you see it coming right out the foof. And I know that one because I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot of that to use in the Jimquisition. I'm pretty sure there's one of like a baby's head, like with a skin tone background, and that's a baby's head coming out of a foof. Try and ask me anything about how the immune system actually works, though, and I won't be able to tell you, because in my mind, to this day, if you mention white blood cells to me, I think of the little soldiers. Same with red blood cells, carrying the little bubbles.
You just got to stop and think about what soldiers would need for a second.
Yeah.
Think about the soldiers, Steph.
Yeah, they should have gone back to the barracks to recover.
Yeah, but another army turned up too quick. They didn't have time.
Right? It was a rout. There's no other word for it. It was a classic rout.
Welcome to Podquisition, your podcast for learning about, like, 3rd grade biology.
Yeah.
Before we jump into other stuff,
I think it might have been called How My Body Works.
Quite possibly.
There was a magazine.
I'm shoving my way in. I'm promoting a thing.
Like a
I've
germ.
got limited time to promote a thing.
Into the body. Yeah, go on. Germ us up.
Hey, there's a thing going on this week that you can be a part of public voting for called the GA Conf Awards, the Game Accessibility Conference Awards. If you go to gaconf.com and look for the GA Conf Awards 2024, or look on my social media, you'll find links. There's awards happening that you can vote for up until the Sunday. What would it be? Sunday the 1st of December voting is going on until, and I don't usually bring up things that have public votes going on them, but I'm going to do this time. If you scroll all the way down to a little category called Best Comms/Marketing, you can see that the Accessibility Summer Showcase is nominated for a Games Accessibility Conference Award this year. I would argue you might think that the Accessibility Summer Showcase that I put on in the summer might be the best comms and marketing for video game accessibility that happened this year, and if you feel that way, maybe you go give it a little vote. And then also maybe go give a vote to some of the games I worked on as a consultant this year that are also in those awards in various categories, because it would look good for me if games I worked on were award-winning games. That'd look good for me.
Award-winning in the specific niche for which you are doing the consulting also. It's a very...
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, look, I've talked about the fact I did stuff on Dragon Age: The Veilguard Guard and Life is Strange Double Exposure this year, which are both nominated in the AAA Excellence category. Life is Strange, I can say that accessibility is what I did on that one, and it's being nominated for an accessibility award, so that'd be pretty fucking cool if that won. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me doing a little bit of self-promo. Go vote for the shit that I've said I did, because it would be cool if I had another little bit of glass to put on the shelf.
Yeah.
That is accessibility
Absolutely.
specific.
Get that glass.
This is the year of Laura's glass. Like,
exactly. This is the year where I get to put glass on my mantelpiece, and I would like some more glass on my mantelpiece. So glass. Go help me put some glass on the thing that says that I did the good accessible E3 this year.
By the way...
Yeah.
I had How My Body Works.
Yeah.
Like, just running in the background.
Of course you did.
Not even to pay attention to it, just to look at the images for nostalgia. And I have just been reminded that the germs, the diseases, had the faces of the guys they came from.
Ah.
Because you get, like, storylines from outside, like, with the actual people whose bodies we're looking in. And there are these two guys who are filthy, and they've got, like, really ratty faces. And obviously we're supposed to not be like them. Although it looks like they're having a great time, because what I saw was them two on a park bench with cigarettes, just cackling about the fact they were smoking. Just, like, if I'd have taken more of that show on board, I think I'd have grown up a smoker, because it looks like they're having a fucking laugh. I haven't laughed like that on weed. Like, no one told me about nicotine.
This is the problem with all of these things. They make being badly behaved look way too cool.
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
They make you want to be the cool misbehavior.
It tells you a lot about beauty standards in our society, right? Because they always portray these people as physically ugly. So they've got, out of all the other characters who are all sort of like, I don't know, just sort of like anime-ish looking, these ones are like big old eyes, big old noses and ears, and like just just almost gonk-like in terms of like over-the-top ugliness. The problem with that message is it's always like, oh, ugly people are bad and do bad things. And I'll watch a cartoon like that and I'll think, mate, I don't fucking look like that. Mate, I could have a 5 o'clock shadow, right, and still be the most attractive girl in the room. I don't look like that, so I can smoke all day. It can't be bad for me. I can do no wrong, because I'm gorgeous, everybody. That's the lesson I learned.
Conrad, you played anything this week?
Well, yeah, I did, actually. I played a demo for a game on Steam.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which was really, really good. It's called Quantum Witch.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. What did you think of that?
So it is a platformer. It is incredibly queer.
Yeah.
Super duper queer.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. Fantastic visuals. I love it. It has this aesthetic that, you know, is both 8-bit and, well, it's 8-6, somewhere in a middle ground. It's a retro style spray, but the visuals have these great little touches. Like, you get a jump kick. And the jump kick, when you perform it, it's the best sprite in a video game. Like, ever. It's perfectly posed. It's not animated at all. It is a solid sprite jump kick, and it's perfect. So I love the visuals. As a platformer, okay, yes, there are platforms, and you jump on them. It's giving the vibe of just a more of an adventure game, really.
Yeah, like I call it platform for shorthand. The game itself calls itself a plotformer.
A platformer. Okay, I like that a lot. Yeah,
I do like that. But yeah, like, it's more of an adventure game for sure.
Yeah, it is. And that's fine, because I think that allows it to lean really hard into what its greatest strength is, which is the writing, which is very, very funny.
Yeah, and I'm allowed to say that because my writing isn't in it yet.
I assumed that your writing wasn't in it yet, but I can see how you are an ideal pick for someone to write for this world and setting.
Yes.
And in the style that it has.
Specifically, I'm writing one of the old gods of the world, the water god can I say? Yeah, Laticauda. Yeah, one of the old gods. And I've been writing some of her dialogue, and I am very pleased. I'm very pleased.
The thing that sort of tipped me off to how kind of ideal this was is in the demo, you are introduced to a cult operating out of a building in town, and they worship the Great Lampshaded One.
Yep.
And yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah, we're
a charming lack of subtlety, which is one of my favorite types of unsubtleness.
This game definitely earns the Garth Marenghi meme.
Yeah.
There is a shocking lack of subtlety in it, which is great. It has the best hint system I've seen in a game in a very long time.
Now, this is what convinced me that
I
being
can't.
on
I'm
this
not surprised. Yeah.
project was a good idea. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, but there is a trailer for this character, and that's what I watched.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it was sold to me. Like Nikki, the lead dev, was like, there is a skeleton in it, and it can see through time. And I was immediately like, okay, queer and skeletons. First of all, those two are already on my list of rate discounts. I will lower my fee for indie, queer, and skeletons. So take note. I assume that's the character you're talking about.
That is the character that I'm talking about, and he's great. I don't tend to avail myself of those characters in games fairly often, but I will make an exception for this one, because I want to see what the skeleton who can see through time has to say. He is really charming. Other than that, and I don't know if this is a question you can answer, Steph, is there combat in this game?
As far as the gameplay goes, I know pretty much what you do.
Okay.
Because I know a fair bit about the plot and like the adventuring side of things.
Yeah.
As far as the mechanical, like moment to moment stuff, yeah. Like I've played the demo. I've not availed myself of access to anything else.
But you can see where I would have that question, right?
Yeah. Like having gone through the demo's combat tutorial, I still can't answer you.
I don't know. I legitimately do not know if the combat presented in this game is a joke. And if it's a joke, I'm fine with the fact that it's a joke. I don't mind. It's a fun little joke. But the combat as presented seems so useless and impractical that I can't imagine being super functional.
Yeah.
And I would be delighted to be proven wrong as well on that count.
My guess is, and this is pure guess, I could see the mechanics being used in non-combat puzzle solving,
Yes.
like hitting things,
Yes.
rather than like, fighting. But I don't know.
It is very difficult for me to imagine using what has been given in a fair fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very charmingly written. I was surprised by how much it is like referential. It's doing some referential jokes that there was a density of them that I hope doesn't turn people off. I hope people see that there's enough other comedy and there's like really good comedy going on that they don't just think that they're making also really good reference jokes. That would be my concern about that, but that's mostly a presentational thing that's hard to do otherwise in the context of the setting that they've set up and things like that.
And I think that's the thing, is it's not for nothing.
Right. So anyway, yeah, Quantum Witch is a great demo. It's short. Something I like about it is that it is possible to brush up against the boundaries of the demo at many points, but it also doesn't end the demo to do that. So you can still run around and check out all the little things that are in there. And it has its own little built-in achievements with a very tempting find the secret dialogue instruction. And so that could be a delightful little thing to try and find, and I'm sure it's funny.
I'm always fond of that when a demo isn't just a slice of the game.
Mm-hmm.
When they've added it doesn't have to be much, but like little demo specific things can be quite cute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So go check it out. It's on Steam. Quantum Witch. It is a good little demo, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it, and well suited to Steph. I'm glad you took that gig.
Me too. Like I feel like I've picked another winner, which my track record so far, I'm lucking out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty solid. I got a super quick thing to talk about that I have no actual thoughts on it as a game, but I got an email about it and I know it exists, and I need somewhere to talk about it, and this is the place for that.
Oh, this sounds good already.
So, you know how, like, there was a whole era of games trying to rip off Fall Guys after Fall Guys got popular.
Oh, God, yeah.
Of, yeah, like, go run through the colourful obstacle course, try and be the one at the end that touches the crown, multiple players. Fall Guys, there was a bunch of them called, like, Stumble Chums and Fall Over Men.
At least one of them has, like, lined the, like, toy shelves with shit, and it makes me angry.
Yeah. So, I'm going to tell you about one of those, and I'm going to start by telling you why it is mechanically, like, way worse, objectively, than Fall Guys, before telling you its sales gimmick. It's Fall Guys, but at most you have 8 people competing for the crown, instead of the, like, 40 or whatever it is in Fall Guys. It's either 2 teams of 2 or 2 teams of 4, so either 4 people or 8 people at most doing Fall Guys challenges. Considerably less chaos, considerably less of the, most people are going to lose anyway, I don't feel bad about losing stuff going on. Otherwise, it's literally just Fall Guys. Except its gimmick is that the little guys have big asses. And it is called Bum Bum Monsters.
Okay, you know what? I was ready to piss all over this. You see, this explains why I only have a surface level reading of how my body works. Like, I'm hooked. I'm on the hook now.
Yeah, look, I hate to admit it, but I got an email that was subject lined Bum Bum Monsters, and I had to look at it, and I did discover that the gimmick was just it's Fall Guys, but their bums are big. I hate that it's kind of gotten me on board.
Are they big enough to carry bubbles of oxygen and carbon dioxide around the body?
I mean, I reckon they probably could.
Oh, mate.
Anyway, that's not a thing I've played, but it's a thing that it was in my inbox, and I needed someone to know that Bum Bum Monsters was out there.
Oh no, you were right to tell us.
Yes,
I'm
this
glad
is
you
crucial
told us.
information. Mm-hmm.
I found this out like 10 minutes before recording the show, and I'm like, I didn't have time to play it, but I might have to try Bum Bum Monsters this week.
Yes.
What about you, Steph? What have you been playing?
Right, I've been playing 2 things. I've been playing 3 things. One of them I don't really need to go into. After Monday's Jimquisition, where I talked about and I shouldn't do it because of my sore throat, but what they did to Zhang He, I decided to play the last good mainline Dynasty Warriors game again, Dynasty Warriors 8, Xtreme Legends, Complete Edition, which isn't even complete because it's still got loads of DLC, on the Switch, and it is still the best mainline Dynasty Warriors. It was the last time Dynasty Warriors was Dynasty Warriors. Incredibly dense. Like, that's the thing. I think doing that every single game, I would agree with the assertion that it is unsustainable. Just because of how many characters and how they used multiple iterations of that game. But I had a thought about that. I wouldn't necessarily trust Technokabi to do it. Although, maybe I would, because iteration is their thing, and getting mileage out of content. But that's the kind of game that should start out life in early access.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. You start with a bunch of characters that you've done, and then you add to it, because you look at some of the densest games on the market, you look at Hades, you look at Vampire Survivors and stuff like that. The real, successes of early access did so because they are, in part, because they are so densely packed. When they launch, they are mind-blowing with how much is in there. That's how you do it. So when I eventually get round to doing a Bloodstained on Dynasty Warriors, which 5 people will care about, unlike with Bloodstained, that's how I'm going to do it. But yeah, that was the thought I had. Just briefly, I'll get the other one out of the way, because I only played a bit of the other 2, but I'll just do one now, is Witchfire, which is an early access, funnily enough. That's an interesting one. It's a first-person shooter, Souls-like roguelike, and I know using those terms is so fucking overused, but I genuinely don't know how else to describe it. Visually, it's so Bloodborne-ish, and the gameplay is... I didn't even pick up on it being a roguelike until, 1 or 2 goes, where I was like, oh, that's how that works. But, yeah, it's quite the competent first-person shooter. I've been playing it on the Steam Deck, where it's not fully optimized. The text it's got that small text issue, but the controls are really nice. It works well as a first-person shooter. Then layered on top of that is the atmosphere and general difficulty, and just some of the ways it feels like you're progressing feels fairly Souls-like-ish. And then you've got the roguelike element, which is you go from your home base through a portal into a hostile environment. There is a goal to completing that environment, but good luck doing that the first time you visit. The general idea is you go in, you harvest a bunch of stuff for as much as you can, and then you book it to the portal. And there is no limit on that. The only real sort of constraint on your travel is there is a countdown until the portal opens. So if there are enemies around, they can disrupt that. And if you spend long enough out in the level, we'll call it, the portal you came in from disappears, and then a new one spawns, and you've got to track that one down to get out. And that's been the flow of play. And then there are these other roguelike elements where you've got the Souls-like thing of where you die, you drop your XP and you can go pick that up. But there are roguelike style temporary things. If you clear an area of enemies, you get offered a choice of temporary power-ups, like you would in a typical roguelite. So that would be stuff, like passive traits to your guns or to your spells and stuff like that. And that's kind of it. I say kind of it, there's a lot more layered into it. A lot of different things like researching to unlock new weapons and spells, and if you do certain objectives with the guns, then you can add upgrades to that, like lots of upgrading. Very interesting leveling thing where they've not done the thing where stats are tied to certain weapons. There doesn't seem to be weapon scaling, and all the stats are really useful. So I've been having a bit of choice paralysis, because it's all stuff like, health and healing ability and how effective your spells are. Like, none of the scaling stuff, nothing that would lend itself massively to a build per se. It is very hard, and I feel like I say very hard, it's not even very hard. It's got a good challenge. It's more that I don't feel like I can spend very long in there, because I'm running out of ammo pretty quick, and once I run out, I need to just leave, because the melee attack is on a cooldown and your spells are on a cooldown, and the guns are the primary way to kill. But hey, I'm guessing it's very much designed that way. I don't know how long that will sustain me if I don't feel like I'm making any meaningful progress for ages. But I do like the idea, and I do like other games that have done it, the idea of striking out. You strike out into an environment, do what you can, and then fuck off. So I do like that kind of loop. And the combat, like I say, pretty damn solid. I've unlocked a couple of spells, and they seem somewhat, neat. There was one where I make a big ice dome that protects me from, projectiles, and if an enemy tries to attack me through it, they freeze. There's one I just unlocked where you summon a big ghostly bell, and if you hit the bell, then it stuns all the enemies around you. So, inventive little stuff. And the same is true of the guns. The character I chose, their starting gun was called a Ricochet, and if you unlock the upgrade for it, you aim down the sights and can tag 3 enemies. And then if you shoot one of the tagged enemies, those bullets jump from what you hit to the other ones as well, which is a good way to save the ammo, because you're being efficient with it. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much I like it so far, but I played a couple, at least I want to say 2 hours, and I've not hated it, and it is pretty well made. Indie Early Access game especially, it's one of them ones where it's they've not used this to release a threadbare game. They've put some work into this, and yeah, nothing so far feels shit.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Conrad? You been playing anything else this week?
I have still been playing a lot of UFO 50.
Yeah, we lost your good UFO 50 chat last week, but how's it going?
It's still going okay. I played through, was it Seaside Drive, I think? Yeah, Seaside Drive. Liked that a lot. It's like it's a shoot 'em up where you are controlling a car that is driving along a highway.
Oh, this one. Yeah, with the sort of drifting constantly.
Yeah, as you drift, it builds up a power meter that increases the size and damage of your projectiles. And then with the face buttons, you can either fire at an upward angle, and you have, control over that angle. It's like 90 degrees, give or take, range that you can fire in above you. And then the other button fires the bullets in the direction that your car is moving at that moment, whether that's moving forward or back. And using those in combination, you deal with a bunch of enemies of weird designs and so forth. And there's like 5 stages. And I really like this game, but I think the thing I like best about it is when you clear a stage without losing a life, it gives you a bonus stage, which is basically, it turns the game into Arkanoid. You have a bubble with a coin that's floating around, and that serves as the ball, and you have to keep it aloft while you destroy a grouping of blocks using your guns and the ball itself, and then you collect it if you win. And I kind of love that, because I had not at all been thinking of the game in the context of it being so similar to Arkanoid or Breakout. But yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's not really that much difference there. And so I thought that was pretty charming. I liked Seaside Drive quite a bit. I've also started playing Party House some more, which is a game where you have to maintain a selection of people to be invited to a party that will increase the popularity of your parties so that you can attract certain specific types of guests within a limited time period.
Yeah, you're trying to make your party popular without getting the wrong kind of people who are going to get the cops called on you.
Yeah, and that is a game that is ruthless about its random number generation, and often you're just going to have some bad shit happen. But fun. I like that one a lot. I also really like Night Manor. This is the horror game in the set.
Oh, this one, yeah.
I love Night Manor. It's like Shadowgate. It's a first-person exploration game where you have a cursor that you can use to interact with the environment and pick up objects and look at them. And you are trapped in a house and you're trying to escape. And there is a killer on the loose in the house. And you can encounter this killer, at which point the game gives you opportunities to try and deal with the killer.
Yes.
And it becomes a frantic exercise in, oh god, I need to make the right choices right now. And my expectation is if I have all of the right things, I can eventually overcome him. But I don't have those things now. And so it becomes an exercise in remembering the map well enough to not dead end yourself and have to go back and re-encounter him.
Yes. Also, I love his design.
Oh my god. He's horrifying.
It looks like every inch of visible skin looks like it has eyeballs trying to force its way out of the skin.
Yes. Just terrifying. And I also love how he works mechanically, because your encounters with him are based on you doing things in the house that make noise. He hears you and is attracted to you. And I love that. There's so much in this game, in UFO 50 as a package, that I would never, ever, at first glance, give more than 5 minutes to.
Yeah. Night Manor is one of those for me. I booted it up the first time and couldn't work out what to do in the first room, and very quickly was like, I'll come back to this. And then I stuck with it and went, this is actually pretty fascinating.
One, it plays upon your preconceived notions of what you know about video games and what you expect video games to be based on genre conventions and things that we came up with to sort of organize them in our brains. And then it subverts them by introducing something that is mechanically something we associate with another genre, or just something that we haven't considered applying to it before, in a way that kind of tricks your brain into playing something that you wouldn't normally have given the opportunity to. And once you know that about the games going into them, you're willing to give them more of an opportunity to show you what that is. Except for Combatants. That game is just bad. It's not going to show you anything better. The game's just bad. Yeah, I'm still really loving the game. I'm loving digging through all of them and finding the little mechanical interplays and slowly finishing as many of them as I can. If for no other reason than I want to personally view the credits on all of the games so that I can see who did what and keep sort of building the mythology in my brain. I have found some more sources of information that I have not looked at now. I've kind of taken a break from the meta-narrative stuff entirely and just been playing the games. And I sort of want to dig back into it in my own time, but it's nice to know that it's there, and I will be finding more of that. And please feel free to send it to me, as others have. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, UFO 50 is great. And if you're not into it because it looks like something you might not be into, I don't know. You might be more into it than you think.
Yeah. As I said, I've not been playing a lot of video games this week. I have been playing some board game stuff that I've been continuing to plod along with. I have been waist deep in over a year of trying to play through with a group of friends a big board game called Frosthaven.
Oh, yeah. That's a good luck.
Yeah, so it is a sequel to a game called Gloomhaven. It is one of those, like, top-down dungeon crawler RPG kind of games. You've got your hex-based grid. The thing that makes Gloomhaven and Frosthaven sort of unique mechanically is that you have a deck of cards that are both your health and your set of attacks and actions you can do on a turn. If you run out of health, you can basically avoid dying by discarding cards completely from circulation. But every time you run through your set of cards, you lose a card as well anyway, so it's like there's a built-in sort of timer for things. And all of your cards have a top and bottom half of them, so you've got, like, a lot of little actions in your hand you can be using that will be vaguely specific as to how your character runs around. And me and some friends have been playing through Frosthaven for well over a year. Like, whenever we have time, we'll do a 2 or 3 day long weekend plodding along with it. It is a fucking huge game. We got into it because there is a smaller offshoot of it called Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is like a 25 mission little mini campaign, which, like, took us a while to get through, but we played that and we're like, yeah, we enjoyed that. We could maybe go for the bigger version. We've been playing for over a year, and in universe we are less than... We've just finished our first in-game year out of multiple in-game years. There is, like, elements that go on between your strategy mini-combat that are like, you're trying to defend your little base. What do you spend your resources you collected in mission on building up the base with? Are you building new buildings that will give you new things to do between missions? Are you building up walls in case you get attacked in the winter? Lots and lots of, here is a card. At some point in the future, it'll do something. It's just going to sit ominously on the table until then. It is not for everyone. It is a fucking nightmare of a chaotic box of stuff. It is one of those board games that does the thing that I criticize board games for doing, which is feeling like a video game that should have a computer automating some of the shit for you, and usually that's enough for me to go, not for me. But all of the narrative threads are so interesting that I am willing to put aside my usual feelings about mechanics-heavy, dungeon crawling, too many pieces board games. I'm having a really good time with it. I'm enjoying a lot of the diversity of how the various characters work, and how when you level them up there is a good variety of choice in how you spec your characters out. I'm playing as my second character in the playthrough at the moment, but My first one was a character who had, like, a consumable resource that had, like, fast and slow modes for every move on every card. So if you, like, did things slowly, you'd have a couple of shitty turns, but you'd build up speed tokens to then kind of be, like, the Flash for a few turns and do, like, really crazy shit. I'm now playing this character that's all about moving other pieces on the board, so I'm, like, moving enemies into line of fire, moving members of my team, I'm helping them run faster through the environment, basically just repositioning stuff so it lines up better for the team. I'm having a great time with it, and I can't ever recommend anyone check that board game out. It's one of those things that you have to be okay with whatever group of people you decide to play this with. This will be the only board game you play with them for the next 3 years, and you have to be okay with that. That's the main thing I've been playing this week. You been playing anything else, Steph?
Yeah. So there's one more game I've been playing. I started playing it a couple hours ago and stopped just as we were recording. I guess it's a game with a reputation preceding it at this point. It's called Dustborn. It's one of the most loathed by the right-wing outrage tourists. The ones who for years said, because I remember them saying it because I was fucking there, "I'll make your own games instead of forcing these ones to be SJW games." So all of the SJWs went and made their games, and they were even more mad about that. This is one of the leading current examples of that hypocrisy writ large. Dustborn.
Yeah.
An unapologetically queer left-leaning game.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's very... People who don't like the left can screenshot a lot of things that are very like, here is some leftist text on screen.
Yes. Don't get me wrong. There are some parts of it where I am like, it's on a bit thick.
I had that feeling when learning about the cancel mechanic.
I've not got to that. From the outset, one encounters gaslighting and triggering.
Yeah.
And I have problems with those. I particularly have problems with the gaslighting one because it's a case, and I feel like this is going to be a thing throughout the game, which I must say, I've not disliked entirely. It is interesting. The premise is not bad. Characters generally are nice enough. Definitely playing more of it. But the general idea is you've got these characters who have, special powers, and they're on the run. And the powers are... They're trying to be clever with it, basically.
Yeah.
The main character has essentially the voice of God from Preacher, where she can make people do things. Part of it feels like they weren't quite sure what they want the powers to be, rules-wise.
Yeah.
So it's got the catchy buzzword of triggering, which is something it can do. Sort of, if that's what you want to call triggering. Where it's more like provoking. It's more like provocation than triggering. But it's using that word because it's a bit of a buzzword these days. And the same is especially true of gaslighting, which is another character who can convince you. It's a fucking persuasion, is what it is. It's persuasion, which is not. In fact, it's kind of been considered a bit reckless to call one-off persuasion gaslighting. And that's the problem. I've been gaslit. It's a long process. And it is not, as it's first shown in the game, the main character has been wounded. And the character with the ability says, "Oh, it's not that bad, you're fine." And that's enough to calm the character down. And that's also it. It's a lot of calming down. Whereas, the point of gaslighting is to drive someone to question reality. Not accept it at face value, but to either think they're losing their mind or think they've developed some other problem. Ultimately, destabilize them. And it is specifically noted in terms of mental health discussion that gaslighting is not one-off. It is a process. It is a long-term thing. And I do kind of have an issue with that because it just feels like they're using a term to sound contemporary.
Yeah, there is unfortunately a few examples of this. I've played through Dustborn and I didn't bring it up on show because I didn't know how I wanted to talk about it. Like you, there are things I like about this game, but there are times where this game just completely does not use terms correctly in ways that I have very complicated feelings about.
Yeah, and that really is it. It reaches a point where what it's doing is clever, and then it goes beyond it. It feels like it keeps having to just push it. And And I think that's part of it, is the drive to sound contemporary. The drive to, what if superheroes, but we used modern terminology and we framed it through that contemporary lens, which isn't the worst idea in the world. But it's wrong. Like, some of what's being said is medically wrong and socially wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes just linguistically wrong. And it kind of feels like one of those examples. And it's not just, this is a good example of the fact that it's not just mainstream big budget games that need to do this. I feel like they should have talked to more people. Now, I don't know what the developer's own experiences with this stuff is, but as someone with some experience in what labels are being used, if you'd have asked me whether gaslighting, for example, was an appropriate name for that power, I would immediately, upon seeing it for the first time, as I did, say, no, that's not what that is. You are doing exactly what people have done to that term. You are overusing it, and you've broadened its usage to the point where it doesn't mean anything. And, that's a bit of an issue, because so much now, persuading someone of something or disagreeing with someone has been called gaslighting. And it's, or lying, or just basically, lying to someone. Lying is lying. Gaslighting is gaslighting. And yeah, so I do have a problem with that. And it puts me on edge for what's coming, just because, yeah, there's no way there's not more of it. And it's a shame, because I do think also the game is obviously being, singled out and treated less fairly than it should be.
Oh, 1,000%.
There's nothing wrong with the characters being who they are. And that's what a lot of the fucking complaints about it's come down to.
Yeah.
But that said, there are problems inherent to it. And a lot of the time it's just where the game has tried to be cleverer than it should have tried to be. I will keep playing it, though.
Yeah. I think it is worth persisting with, but in as much as I don't know how to feel about it as a game. But we've got a couple of quick newsy bits before we finish up today we can go through. This is just a nice one to know. You know how for years the logic on mobile has been that people will not pay money to buy a game? That's just not what people will do on mobile?
That is what is claimed, yep.
That is what is claimed. Well, we got a nice fuck you to that idea this week. So you know how a little while back Balatro released on mobile?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's apparently doing pretty fucking well. It apparently, for a point last week, had knocked Minecraft off of the top of the sales charts on both Android and iPhone
shit.
as the top downloaded game on those platforms. As a $9.99 paid purchase game, the mobile port of Balatro has generated almost $4.4 million on mobile alone since September.
Wow.
So clearly, for the right game, people will spend a tenner for a game on mobile without microtransactions. And apparently Balatro is exactly that game.
Well, yeah.
I feel like there are probably more games that could do it if, they were good.
There are more games that have done it.
Yeah.
People forget that there was this little period where mobile gaming was a fucking promising frontier. And I was a big champion of it back then, because people would shit all over it. They'd be like, oh, casual games. And I'd be like, this could be a big part of the future of gaming. Not the future, as some people were saying, because I'm so sick of people calling everything the future and throwing the baby out the bathwater with the glom onto it. But, we're talking, and this is a long time ago, we're talking early 2010s. Games like Doodle Jump were sort of big at that point. We had the bigger hitting games like Infinity Blade, stuff like that. And there were paid experiences on there, and I was happy to buy some of those games because they were fucking good. And I don't think necessarily that audience has gone away. Underserved markets are underserved because there's more people willing to do something than is believed. And I think there's an underserved market, and Balatro shows.
There's not many of them, but I can remember the last time I paid for a mobile game and had a great time with it, I think was Boss Game, The Final Boss Is My Heart. Had a great time with that on mobile. That was like £3, I think.
I think part of the problem is it's all the free-to-play trash, and so much of it is trash. There's a couple of good free games, but most of it is, exploitative, horrible garbage. And it's ruined the whole platform's reputation.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. It's not that people aren't willing to buy games. It's that that market has been so saturated by freemium guff, it has lowered the perception of the value of mobile games.
Yeah.
And we need more Balatros to rehabilitate that perception.
Indeed we do. We didn't talk about this last week because of the lost episode happening, but it does feel like this one's worth talking about. Are either of you aware of a Japanese company called Kadokawa?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The headline that's been doing the rounds, that was initially a rumour and is now somewhat official, is that Sony is trying to purchase Kadokawa, which would in theory mean that they would own, I believe it would be like 80% of FromSoft they would own after this acquisition. It would be a controlling stake in From Software. It's worth noting that this acquisition would also acquire several other big gaming companies and companies outside of gaming. Acquire, who are the developers of Octopath Traveler, Mario and Luigi Brothership, Spike Chunsoft, who were behind like the recent Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, and the one that I think is secretly the thing that most makes this a potential monopoly problem. Kadokawa owns a whole bunch of anime rights, and Sony already owns Crunchyroll and Funimation, and is really trying to corner the market on owning the anime industry, and this would be a big fucking step in that direction. So yeah, this was initially a rumour, but it is now somewhat official. Kadokawa have put out a statement saying that it has confirmed receiving an initial letter of intent to acquire the company's shares from Sony. There's been a lot of rumours going around about what's going on here. Allegedly, Sony has been trying for a while to buy specific rights from Kadokawa, and Kadokawa is just nope, you acquire the whole thing or none of it. But it sure does seem like Sony might soon own a couple of big, notable chunks of the game industry might be owned by Sony.
Yeah, that's not good. Everything continues to consolidate.
Yeah.
You reach a certain level of profitability and someone's going to come calling, and you can't continue to fund projects and grow. and this is what happens. Yeah, sucks.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not a positive for the industry if more companies own everything and everything is segregated away and not available elsewhere and monopolized. We'll see if this moves forward, and if so, we'll see what that means, but that's worth keeping an eye on. And the last one, and this is a pretty quick one to go over. You know how less than a year ago, I think 8 months ago, we got the news that that first batch of 4 Xbox games was coming to other platforms?
Right.
And Phil Spencer at the time was it's only these 4. It's not like the next Halo or something's coming to other platforms. It's just these 4 things, these very specific things. Yeah, in a new interview, Phil Spencer has said there are no red lines regarding what games from Xbox's library might now come to other platforms. Literally everything's on the table.
Yeah, when Microsoft says something, it's always possibly a lie. I mean, that's true of any corporation, but Microsoft has been so, blatant in the past. It's almost to the point where if they say something as an assurance, you can be assured it is a lie.
It's interesting. I fully, and I have no evidence for this, I fully believe in my heart that this was always the position. And that the marketing of those initial 4 was because people were panicking and freaking out and they were trying to damage control. Let's give it a year for people to get used to this before we say anything more. I don't think they've decided in the last 8 months that now everything's on the table. I think everything was probably on the table from the start and they just fumbled the messaging.
Yeah, probably. I've got no dog in this race, really.
Yeah.
But I just want to make the broader point that Microsoft has a track record of just chatting bullshit.
I am of the opinion that more previously exclusive things coming to more platforms is good for basically everyone.
Pretty much.
The only people it's not good for, and I can recognize this as an existing person, the person who at the start of this console generation had a choice between an Xbox Series X and a PS5 and decided to buy the Xbox and is now watching, oh, all the Xbox stuff is coming to the other platform, but the other stuff's not coming to my Xbox. I do feel kind of like I picked the wrong horse in this race.
Yeah.
And they will never buy another Xbox again. And actually, I think that was the plan. I think ultimately Xbox is preparing for exiting the console market, which...
That's what I thought, but apparently Phil Spencer was talking about future plans, like, literally this week. Apparently they're working on a handheld, because apparently consoles are done for them. They're looking at making a handheld Xbox.
I mean, that feeds into it, I think.
I guess, yeah.
Get out the home consoles, do a handheld. Again, it's Microsoft talking future plans, so...
Yeah.
Not worth the paper it's printed on, but...
I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft went the direction of, like, here is a Windows handheld, kind of like the ROG Ally or something, with a custom overlay so that it's like the Steam Deck and you don't have to look at Windows and you can use a controller, but it's basically just another Windows handheld. I could see them doing that.
Yeah.
That feels very reasonable.
Well, I mean, it looks like Sony might be as well.
Apparently, yeah, they're apparently planning another handheld.
Folks on Blue Sky were all, the Vita's back, long ways off, and might not come to market.
Yeah. I'm not surprised to see Xbox and PlayStation trying to get back into the handheld space, because there is an expectation that games running on a handheld don't have to have quite so much money poured into their visuals because they're on a weaker platform. You could probably make games a bit more affordably if you're making them for a handheld.
Yeah.
Well, and there's competition happening in that space that isn't happening in consoles. And the Steam Deck has been really successful, and so we've seen a lot of boutique PC manufacturers making their own versions of it. And now, I think it would be pretty expected for the console manufacturers to give that another spin at this point.
Great for me. I've always loved handheld gaming. It's one of my favourite things.
Yeah.
I've always loved portable consoles. I loved the Vita. I had a whole corner devoted to it once. And again, it's very might not happen, especially because they're talking PS5 visuals on it. But I will absolutely bite off on another Sony handheld.
Yeah.
Like, Sony's terrible at supporting them once they're out, but they are always great devices, and some people will pick up the slack, and there will be a nice little library of games on it if it's like the past.
The Switch is looking set to become the best-selling console of all time. I'm not surprised that there is... Maybe we overlooked handhelds a little too quick. Maybe we get back in there. And I love me a good handheld. I would love if all three consoles had handhelds. That'd be fucking great.
There's a reason Nintendo didn't fully abandon handhelds with the Switch. Because the DS line was never unpopular. The Game Boy line before it, also fucking popular.
The handhelds have always been where Nintendo's been reliable.
Yeah, and people like them. Loads of people like them. A lot of people likely prefer it. There's probably a wider market for handhelds, at least certain ones, because, especially among adults, where taking up the TV can be an issue.
Yeah.
So, the Switch was genius to, have that hybrid, and I reckon there's tons still of untapped potential in that market. I play so much on my Steam Deck. I played Dustborn and Witchfire this week. On my on the Steam Deck.
Nice. Well, I think that's basically everything for this week.
Everything for this week. Well, Laura, there's no way it's everything you've done this week or any other week. Can you tell people about that, please?
Well, you can check out some of the stuff I've done this week at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Go check out the GA Conf Awards 2024, and if you are so inclined, maybe drop a vote for the Accessibility Summer Showcase this year. Other stuff you can check out this week. There will be, the day after this episode goes up, there will be an accessibility episode about how generic photosensitivity warnings in games protect liability rather than gamers, and how we could move towards photosensitivity warnings being more specific in ways that would actually be useful for people with photosensitive conditions. That'll be up tomorrow. Go check that out. I'm continuing my slow watch through of Wandering Sun, the anime that 15 years ago I binged in one night and then came out the same day. Check that out on YouTube. I'm slowly working my way through many, many, many trans thoughts while talking about that show. What about you, Conrad? Where are you at on the internet?
Oh, you could find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Instagram and Blue Sky, and you can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman. I've been playing Spelunky on Sundays. My wife Linda and I check out horror games on Mondays. Oh, I played Mouthwashing. We should talk about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God, what a...
I've got a video coming on that. It's one of them ones I've actually spent more than 1 week hurriedly, panickingly preparing. It's going to be a heavy but good one. Mouthwashing's great.
Great game. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com, and everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
Patreon.com/Jimquisition, that's right. That supports this show and the Jimquisition show on YouTube, and the reviews at thejimquisition.com, which I was planning to have more of this week, but I was sick. Same goes for streaming at Twitch TV Jim Sterling. I was planning to stream the past 2 nights. Have not, because I'm really fucking ill. But I will get back to it. Hopefully I'm well by the weekend, because my next wrestling appearance is in Huddersfield. That is on December, I want to say it's the 3rd or the 1st, one of the two. But it's this Sunday, and it's Tidal Wrestling at Parish. Do check it out. I've not got a match, but the last time I was there, I turned on Priscilla. And, yeah, the commander will be explaining her motives, so that will be cool. And then, I've got a December show as well in PCW, but I can't remember it. You know what? I'm just going to go. I feel fucking ill. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.